Hey everyone, I'm super excited about our next guest. She's an iconic drag queen and a choreographer who's got everyone's attention on the sixth season of RuPaul's Drag Race. Let's welcome Laganja Estranja to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
So we were just talking about glamour. We had a little conversation about glamour.
Where is the glamour?
It's right here.
Wants to know.
It's right here. But yeah, where do you find your inspiration? Because you're giving us glamour right now.
Well, thank you. I'm giving you a little Texas glam today.
Yes.
But I find inspiration in all kinds of things, you know. I like to dress differently every day. I think having one style is, well, basic and boring. So,
Right.
you know, that's why I love drag, because it helped me find my voice in all the different areas. You know, some days I'm feeling boho chic, some days I'm feeling punk, some days I'm feeling Y2K. And I think that's like the beauty in glamour is the ability to have expression in many different ways.
Talking about the Dallas glamour, what was like growing up in Dallas? What was your childhood like? Just tell us a little bit about little you.
Sure. Well, growing up in Dallas, Texas, as I always say, double dollar sign, wasn't easy, but I was surrounded by a lot of glam. You know, my grandma was one to always do her makeup. She never left the house without a red lipstick. Later in her life, when she, you know, was going through cancer and lost her hair, she was a wig lady. She wore wigs all the time. The higher the hair, the closer to God. So I was definitely surrounded by this idea of glamour being like armor and something in which you could use to protect yourself.
Was there a specific moment where you were, okay, this is a moment, now I am announcing it, because you were already a public figure, your transition, how did that happen?
Right.
Was there something that
So
pushed
for me, you know, I think I've known for a very long time that I was trans. I didn't have the education growing up in Texas or the representation on TV to understand and tell RuPaul's Drag Race. You know, Kylie Sonique was the first person I'd ever seen on TV who was trans. And even when she was first on Drag Race, she wasn't really allowed to talk about it. So it was following her journey after the show that I began to be like, oh, I think that's me. I think that's what I am. So when the pandemic happened, my real hair grew out. I was confronted with it front on. And I just decided in that moment it was something that I could no longer ignore. And that ultimately what I'd said all along, which was I'll wait until my parents die, didn't resonate with me anymore. And I really wanted my parents to know the beautiful trans woman that they've raised. And so I decided to come out very publicly, A, because I knew there was no way around it. I already have a platform. People were noticing the changes. And B, because I wanted people to see that, you know, trans doesn't look one way. I think often in media, you know, we see the dolls, we see the girls who are perfect, who've had a bunch of surgeries, who have money and are able to, you know, do the upkeep. And we see this sort of one representation. And I wanted people to see that there are many facets of being trans and that it doesn't look the same for all of us. And, you know, in the beginning of my journey, I was like, I'll never have surgery. I was convinced. But 3 years later, last year I had my first gender affirming surgery. And so I've really tried to allow people in on my journey and kind of show them what it's looked like at every step so that hopefully they have hope and they can see themselves in me and see that, yeah, I've struggled. It's been difficult. And, you know, it hasn't always been easy. And I think a lot of times those who are representing us, they make it look so easy. And it may be because they have access to medicine, they have access to money, but I'm a drag queen at the end of the day. So it hasn't always been easy. It has been something I've had to fight for. And I'm so grateful for organizations like Folks, which have really helped me in my transition, my medical transition, and, you know, giving me a safe space to go and ask questions. And, you know, I just try to share that as openly and as authentically as I can.
I have a question. So, do people who do drag, is that sort of like a flyover on the way to being a transgender woman? And then is there within the drag queen community a stigma that they don't want it to be viewed as that? And do people get looked down upon for being actually a transgender person in drag?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry. I don't even know. I should Google it. I'm
Let's
sorry.
start with part one.
Yeah.
You know, for me, drag was the catalyst in finding my truth. Drag, for me, was a way that I was able to organize my femininity in boxes, right? Drag was something I did, it wasn't who I was. So for many years, drag was a way for me to kind of get that out of my system without admitting my full truth. It was a way for me to be like, it's something I put on and take off. But ultimately, you know, drag helps me to realize that this is my truth. Now, second part of that question is, drag queens are a hot mess, if we're being honest. So they have all different kinds of viewpoints on, you know, whether it's good or not, or this or that. And so I can only speak to how I feel. And, you know, a lot of people that I've known who are trans, who transition, they don't then like the term drag queen because they feel drag queen is dressing as a girl, a man who is dressing as a girl, and they are not that. I don't feel that way. I think drag has changed over the years, especially because of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I view it as an art form accessible to all types of people, whether you're biological female or not, whether you're gay or straight. I mean, we've pretty much seen it all on RuPaul's Drag Race at this point.
Yeah.
You know? So I find it as an art form. And so I'm very confident and comfortable in owning that I am a drag queen, but a lot of trans people transition into saying they're showgirls. So I think that's semantics. I don't think it matters so much. I think nowadays we're all caught up in these labels, even within the trans community. And I just think we should let people be. You know, it's a line from Cabaret, one of my favorite musicals. It says, why can't we leben und leben lassen? I don't speak German, but it means, why can't we live and let live? And that's really sort of my goal in all of this as an artist, as an activist, is just to show people that these labels, these things we confine ourselves to, they're limiting us. And ultimately, none of it really matters. Just be you. And if people want to call it drag or showgirl or all that, fine, I'll respect it, right? Just like with pronouns. I'll respect whatever you want to be called. But ultimately, to me, it's fun. It's wigs, it's gigs, it's glam. It's not that serious.
A lot of times we are so hurt by
Yes.
the world that we close up.
Hurt
We-
people hurt people.
Exactly. So I think it is
And
a
healed
beautiful
people
thing.
heal people.
And it's gorgeous.